Good morning. I'm Mary Beth Sabatek, the founder of the Psychoenergetic Institute and the developer of the energy model of therapeutic change. And I started this Patreon station to be able to talk about divine purpose and soul mission for all of us who incarnate or are born into the planet at this time. In order to just give you a little bit of history about my journey and how I got to the point of really looking at everything from a what I call soul perspective, or looking at the behind the scenes, maybe airplane perspective, then I want to share a little bit about my history. I was, I went to school for psychology and counseling and have a master's in psychology, and actually was worked for 14 years in one of the largest rescue missions in the United States. It was the largest at that time. We had 350 employees, and I worked there for 14 years in many capacities, starting as a crisis counselor and then a mental health counselor and a case manager, and and then later on a director, and I oversaw a lot of the programs through probation and things in my department where people came through to volunteer. So I got a lot of exposure during those years of the mental health and addiction and recovery fields, and also in a very diverse environment. And during that time, I also was a social emergency room social worker for a while. So I had some medical exposure, and then later went into some, did it as well independently, and did some coaching on the side and some other business endeavors in real estate investment and things like that. So during that time, I kind of had my own experience with my health just before I became a counselor that kind of gave me this epiphany that sometimes the more intervention, the worse that we can get. And so I started looking at how we as a mental health system were approaching our clients with these issues. And I realized years later, but at the time, I kind of stopped liking what was going on. But all of our trainings, many of them were given to us that we were sent out to take. Maybe we'd need some continuing ed classes. Then they were given to us by the pharmaceutical industries. And when I worked in the emergency room, we were wined and dined a lot. The pharmaceutical industries would bring complete catered meals into our break room, and the doctors would go off to Hawaii on these training retreats and things like that. And so I saw a lot of this, and it kind of took several years to put together the pieces. But the one thing that I saw back then, and thankfully in part because of my own health experience before that, is that we were dealing with band-aid we were offering band-aid approaches, and people would come to us, especially young adults or late teens to early adults when they first enter the system, and we were just told, okay, here's what to look for. We would do the psyche evals, and this one possibly has schizophrenia, or this one, I remember when borderline personality disorder came down the pike, and we would get caught into these trainings, and here's the latest and greatest and the newest thing, and this is what you have to look out for, and this is who you have to refer these people to, and we got to get them on medicine. And looking back, I realized that years later, when I worked in the sales kind of recruitment field in college, then it was kind of that same approach, like go out there and get them and bring them in. But when they got in there, then we were offering band-aid approaches, and that's what I found is there were people who were not even getting the basic nutrition, and were experiencing symptoms that would be congruent with that, and yet we were giving them a diagnosis which I can't tell you the number of suicides of young men and women over the years who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. It's such a horrible diagnosis, or at least it was back then, that, oh, you will just try different medications and subdue it, but it'll progressively get worse. But what I started seeing is people who took alternative approaches and looked at other options and looked at nutrition in root causes, because mental illness, there's always a physical cause. Now, sometimes people have traumatic events that can trigger things, but it's mind, body, and spirit either working together for the person or against them. And we just weren't addressing that. And so I went back to school for natural health and learned a lot about our amazing bodies and how they are divinely made to heal themselves. If we give our bodies the proper things and what they need, they heal themselves. But along with that education came a lot of spiritual. And back then, I was in the church. My ex-husband was a pastor for the first few years we were married, so I was a pastor's wife. And then we went on to be very involved in other capacities, leading, being on a worship team and some things like that. So I had always been involved, but there were words that I was petrified of, because I was taught that, oh, these words are, it's, witchcraft or satanic, but the word energy. And I started learning about energy and realized that uh, there's nothing uh, there's nothing in it that really would, uh, try to think of a word here, that would make me think of witchcraft or any of that other stuff. Energy is simply the flow. Everything that we do is energy. Everything that comes into our life is energy. It either feeds us or it bleeds us. And it either robs us or it fuels us. And so I started studying this concept, and I see it like with diet, what we eat either feeds us or bleeds us. And when we eat the bleeders, it doesn't give us the ability to heal the way that we need to. And it sends signals that manifest as something else. So somebody can be drinking too much coffee over here, or not having the protein and sugar, and it manifests over here as anxiety, and they get put on anxiety medicine. So that was kind of really my heart of it. But I started looking when I got into doing independent one-on-one and family and things like that. I started really realizing, I'm seeing some of the same patterns as I was when I was working fully in the mental health system, or setting, and realizing that there's another part of energy that we know that there's energy with healing of the hands. Okay, when that's talked about in scripture, there's energy involved, and now some people call it Reiki. We know there's energy with yoga and all this. I have never seen anyone levitate, in case anyone's wondering. But what we don't think about is the practical energy flow of the things that we do, how we invest our time, the people we allow in our lives. And so I ended up creating a whole model of therapy called the energy model of therapeutic change. And I identified 9 energy core areas in our lives of practical energy. And I'm talking hands on. I'm not talking the Reiki, the things that you can't see, or that type of thing. I'm talking about hands on stuff that you have control over, that you can see, that I can see. And so I started doing this on my clients, and I started seeing that we were getting to the root, and people were in therapy a lot less. Their duration was a lot shorter, because they were given tools that they can use permanently. Some went on to actually do coaching of whatever the area was that they found the profound success in. They'd say, hey, I'm going to go, I want to teach this to people. So I started seeing the success, and there were some things in my own life that I was just kind of, like, it's like, how did I end up here? Like, what is it in this thing right here, this area of my life, one of my 9 energy cores. And I'll give you a hint. Sometimes something can manifest in this core, but the problem can be over here in this completely other energy core that seems unrelated. So I realized that, gosh, I've been so successful with my clients, or I want to say they're successful because it's the work that they put in, that I have never done this on myself, not the whole program. And so I ended up putting myself through it. And I was able to very quickly identify, this is where you get hung up. This is what it is. This is where the bleed is, and this is what you need to do. And I did it, and completely, like, just something I had struggled with for years just went and turned right around, and I had the success. And I can say that I the life that I live now is the life that, and I'm not talking riches and all this kind of stuff. I'm talking about living the ideal life in the place I want, having the house I want with the person I want, and that that promotes my divine purpose, and being able to actually live that purpose, and not be caught up in, I gotta survive, I gotta run to work, and I gotta survive, because my purpose has become my work. So I started this station. Actually, I have several videos that I'm kind of moving over. So today is May 11th, 2021. And I'm moving everything to Patreon because instead of, I want to give people the opportunity. I also have my website, the Energy Model of Therapeutic Change, or I'm sorry, the Energy Model of Change.com. So if you go there, you can see more about it. You can see how much the program is. But I realized that I need to put my money where my mouth is, and I need to teach this program without all the tools, but get that they would get if they actually become certified through mine. The school is the Psychoenergetic Institute is accredited by the International Medical and Dental Association of Therapists and Hypnotherapists. And so there are some accredited programs on there, but what about that person that doesn't want to take a program, or they can't afford it, or whatever? If my passion and sole purpose is to get this message out, because we all come into this incarnation as light beings, and we are, what happens is we get all this programming and all this environmental stuff, and we get the junk and the issues of the adults around us, whether it's in our family or our friends, a friend's parent, or a teacher, or whatever their issues are, they can get dumped. And with children, we in therapy, one of the things we talk about is things that are sunk. And so I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, and I can, one of the things we look at is what kind of false information was given to somebody that was sunk. And typically, when something gets sunk, that becomes their truth, or is something that they believe in. Now, I want to tell you, your truth, my truth, is all perception and opinions. There's no truth to it. The truth is the truth, and our truth may align with the truth, but sometimes it doesn't. That's another story, and I will talk about that, because that's one of the things that can get in the way of your divine purpose, and that's something that will be addressed. However, when we uh, so when something gets sunk, it's usually because somebody of authority said something that, because of that person's position, then we believed it, and it's something negative. And so I just have, so my purpose with coming and starting this is I want to help set you free and set people free, because as we come in, and as I stated, we things get sunk into us, we get programmed, and that programming, unless we have a parent or somebody in our close proximity that understands about divine purpose and soul purpose, then what happens is we take kids and we make them march in line with everyone else, and we don't let them develop their own soul purpose. And I see this, some of the most balanced kids that grew up to really be creative and really just free emotionally and mentally are the homeschooling kids that we knew when my kids were growing up. And my kids did homeschool for some years and then went to school. And my youngest never homeschooled and wishes she had. She just wished she could have been out of that box to be more creative. So anyway, that's what this station is. It's I want to help to set people free. And if you've had obstacles in your life, as we go through some of these, I will have these divided into topics so that you'll be able to identify which topics. But join me and come along on a journey to not only discover your soul purpose, but to remove those obstacles, to just like I did when I did my program, remove those obstacles so that you can start living your life passions and fulfilling your soul purpose. So if you will, click and become a member or join one of the memberships for a very, very small fee a month. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me so that I can continue to teach and help people find their soul purpose, maybe help them take alternative approaches for health or mental health. There's a lot of resources out there. I want to help people get to the root cause. And I'm asking you to help me to help those people and to help you to get to the root causes so that you can just kind of fast track your way to your divine purpose and your life passions. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to have you with or watching a lot of my other videos. Thanks and have a great day.